Hello, my dear brothers and sisters. I wholeheartedly welcome all of you to a new episode. Before we move forward with today's story, please subscribe and press the bell icon so that you receive notifications for all my videos. Now let's begin today's story. It was around 12:30 p.m. on August 5th, 2023, a regular afternoon in Leeladhar colony of Cholamandir area, Bhopal, the capital of Madhya Pradesh. The residents were busy with their daily routines when suddenly a woman's screams shattered the calm. Hearing the cries, the people nearby turned their attention toward the source of the commotion. Amidst the chaos, some people rushed toward a house. The desperate cries of the woman also attracted tenants from nearby homes. The screaming was coming from the upper floor of a house. Without wasting any time, the neighbors climbed the exterior stairs to the terrace and started banging on the door. Moments later, the door opened, revealing two masked women. Brandishing knives, they warned in a threatening tone, "Dare to come forward and we'll kill you." One of the women was holding a blood-stained knife, sending chills down the spines of those present. Terrified, the onlookers stepped back, creating a clear escape route for the attackers. Seizing the opportunity, the masked women waved their knives and fled. Some people tried to chase them, but they disappeared into the distance before they could be caught. As people cautiously stepped inside the house, they were shocked beyond words. Inside, a 28 to 30-year-old woman named Preeti Sharma lay in a pool of blood. Next to her, a 1-year-old child was crying uncontrollably. An elderly woman who had rushed in picked up the baby and tried to console him. Preeti Sharma's body was covered in deep wounds, and the entire room was drenched in blood. The gruesome scene left the entire neighborhood in terror. The locals immediately informed Manoj and his elder brother, Fulchand, about the shocking incident. Both of them reached home, but the sight before them left them in shock. Manoj's elder brother, Fulchand, immediately called the Cholamandir police station to report the incident. Station in charge Udayban Singh Badaria quickly arrived at the house in Leeladhar colony with his team, where a brutal murder had taken place. Preeti was found lying on the bed in critical condition, her entire body covered in stab wounds. Blood splatters stained the walls of the room, and the mattress was soaked in blood. A broken knife lay on the floor. Preeti was rushed to People's Hospital, where doctors declared her dead. During police inquiries with the neighbors, it was revealed that Preeti lived with her husband, Manoj Sharma, and their 3 children. Manoj worked at a jewelry shop in Chowk Bazaar. On the day of the incident, their 2 older children had gone to school in the morning, and Manoj had left for work. Preeti was doing household chores when 2 women in salwar suits entered the house, locked the door, and before she could react, attacked her with knives. Eyewitnesses, including tenants living in the house, reported seeing 2 women in salwar suits entering the house. They wore black sunglasses, veils, gloves, and blue shoes. Since they appeared familiar, no one suspected anything. Within moments, they climbed the stairs to the terrace and locked the main gate from the inside. Soon after, loud screams were heard from upstairs. About a year before the incident, Manoj had been living in his elder brother's house in Shivnagar. With his brother's help, he had built a house in Leeladhar colony, where 6 tenants lived on the ground floor, while Manoj, Preeti, and their 3 children lived upstairs. At the time of the attack, their 2 older sons, aged 8 and 3, were at school. As the 2 assailants, now wearing raincoats, attempted to flee, a tenant named Dipesh chased after them. During the chase, one of the attackers' veils slightly lifted, revealing a bearded man with a long braid at the back of his head. Before Dipesh could react, the attacker brandished a knife and escaped. This revelation gave the police a new lead. When people described the attacker's appearance, Preeti's husband, Manoj Sharma, was alarmed. He turned to T.I. Badoria and said, "Sir, the murderer could be Ramniwas Mishra." Udayban Singh Badoria immediately asked, "Who is this Ramniwas?" Manoj replied, "Sir, Ramniwas is a relative of mine. He is my aunt's son-in-law. He lives near Shitla Mata temple and serves as a priest at the Durga Mata temple. He has a long beard, mustache, and long hair tied in a braid." The TI pressed further, "But why would he kill Preeti? Did she have an affair with him? Manoj hesitated before revealing, "Sir, I wasn't home most of the time, but my tenants told me that Ramnivas frequently visited my house when I was away. I used to leave early in the morning to drop my children at school and then head to work. After that, only Preeti and our 1-year-old son would be home." The police then reviewed CCTV footage from the area. It showed 2 masked individuals wearing raincoats arriving in an auto rickshaw near the house at the time of the crime. The auto was seen in the adjacent lane. A man was seen approaching, and then the 2 masked attackers were spotted heading towards Preeti's house before running away. The police traced the auto rickshaw's number and tracked it down. It was found that the auto driver was a young man named Chandan. During questioning, Chandan told the police, "Sir, I am a student and I drive an auto to cover my expenses. I met the priest Ramnivas at the temple. Whenever he needed to go somewhere, he would call me. On the morning of August 5th, around 10 to 11 a.m., Ramnivas called me and asked me to take him to Leeladhar colony. When I arrived at his house with my auto, he and his wife came out. They were both wearing raincoats, but I didn't pay much attention. I took them to Leeladhar colony, where they asked me to stop the auto a short distance behind a house. They told me they would return in 5 minutes. However, they came back after 10 to 15 minutes, and I noticed bloodstains on their hands and clothes. When I asked about it, they said there had been some kind of fight. After that, I dropped them back home." As soon as Chandan revealed this, the police realized that Ramnivas and his wife were responsible for the murder. Based on this, they began searching for Ramnivas Mishra. On August 7th, the police traced Ramnivas's phone number and found his location near the New Market area. They searched for him for several hours, but during this time, he had shaved off his beard and mustache, making it difficult for the police and their informants to recognize him. However, by the evening, the police finally caught him. There were scratch marks on his face. When questioned, he initially provided false information about his identity. However, during further interrogation, he tried to mislead the police for a long time. Eventually, when the police checked his mobile phone, they discovered multiple calls from a man named Chandan before and after the murder. Ramnivas kept denying his involvement, but when the police interrogated him strictly, he confessed to killing Preeti Sharma along with his wife. After this, the police also arrested Ramnivas' wife, Shalini. During the investigation by Chola Mender police in Bhopal, a shocking story behind Preeti's murder emerged. It was a tale of an extramarital affair between a married man and a married woman. Manoj Sharma, a 38-year-old resident of Leeladhar colony in Chola Mender, Bhopal, married Preeti in 2014. Preeti, who was 28 years old, was originally from Katni district. There was a 10-year age gap between them. Preeti had a protruding spinal bone, which had made it difficult for her family to find a suitable match. Whenever a marriage proposal came up, people jealous of her family would instigate the prospective groom's side against her. They would say things like, "She has a spinal deformity, she will never be able to become a mother," or "She won't be able to keep her husband happy." Amid these challenges, a proposal came from Manoj in Bhopal. Preeti had physical weaknesses, and Manoj's first wife had already left him. Due to their respective shortcomings, they accepted each other and got married in 2014. Manoj lived in Bhopal with his elder brother Fulchand, and after the marriage, Preeti became a part of the family. Everything was going fine, and the couple even had 2 children. Meanwhile, Ramnivas Mishra, the brother-in-law of Manoj's aunt, started visiting their house frequently. He was a priest at Durga temple. Since he and Manoj were of a similar age, they got along well. Being relatives, there was always friendly banter between them. Manoj never saw their growing closeness in a romantic way. He simply thought that friendly teasing among relatives was normal. However, Ramnivas took advantage of this trust. As the saying goes, love and secrets can never be hidden for long. Eventually, rumors about Preeti and Ramnivas' affair reached Manoj. Some tenants and concerned neighbors informed him that Ramnivas often visited the house as soon as Manoj left. A friend even warned him, "Buddy, there are all sorts of rumors in the colony about your wife and Ramnivas. You need to be very careful." Hearing about his wife's alleged affair, Manoj became suspicious. He gently confronted Preeti, saying, "Preeti, do you know what people in the colony are saying about you and Ram Niwas? It's not appropriate for him to come to our house so often." Preeti got furious and snapped back, "You are suspecting me for no reason. Ram Niwas is your aunt's nephew. Why don't you stop him from coming over?" Manoj also tried to talk to Ram Niwas, who assured him, "People in the neighborhood are just trying to defame Preeti. There's nothing between us." However, the truth was that Ram Niwas and Preeti's affair had shattered the trust between Manoj and his wife. This led to frequent arguments between them. When Preeti became pregnant for the second time, she excitedly told Manoj, "I'm going to be a mother again." But Manoj showed no happiness. Instead, he accused her, "The child you are carrying is not mine. It's the result of your affair with Ram Niwas." Infuriated, Preeti retorted, "If you don't believe me, get a DNA test done. If the child isn't yours, punish me however you want." The relationship between the couple had deteriorated to the point that when Preeti was in her 7th month of pregnancy, while Preeti was on her period, one day a fight broke out between Manoj and Preeti. In anger, Manoj threw Preeti out of the house. She returned to her maternal home. Her family tried hard to convince Manoj to take her back, but he refused to accept her. Despite multiple efforts, Manoj remained firm in his decision. Eventually, he stopped all contact with Preeti and her family, refusing to even answer their calls. As Preeti, a young woman with a child, continued living at her parental home, her father faced social humiliation. Distressed, he lodged a dowry harassment complaint against Manoj at the Kotni police station, leading to a case being registered. Manoj's relatives advised him to reconcile with Preeti, warning that otherwise he could be jailed under the Dowry Prohibition Act. Fearing imprisonment, Manoj agreed to take Preeti back. They moved to Bhopal and started living together again. However, despite their reunion, Preeti did not withdraw the dowry case against Manoj. He repeatedly asked her to do so, arguing that everything was fine between them, but she refused. Over time, Preeti became settled in her family life and even had a 3rd child. Yet she could not forget her past romantic relationships. Eventually, Ram Niwas started visiting her home again. Meanwhile, Ram Niwas's wife, Shalini, discovered her husband's illicit affair with Preeti. She became suspicious and started confronting him frequently. Though both families were related, their relations had soured so much that they became enemies, ready to go to any extent against each other. As the situation worsened, Preeti stopped talking to Ram Niwas and even refused to answer his calls. Ram Niwas suspected that Preeti had moved on to another affair, which is why she was distancing herself from him. Because of Preeti, conflicts arose in Shalini's household and she began to hate Preeti. This pushed Ram Niwas to devise a plan to teach Preeti a lesson. During police interrogation, it was revealed that the motive behind Preeti's murder was her affair with Ram Niwas. He confessed, saying that he and Preeti had been in a relationship, but she had recently stopped talking to him. He suspected she was involved with someone else, which led to arguments between them. Eventually, he decided to kill her as revenge. On the afternoon of August 5, 2023, Ram Niwas told his wife, Shalini, "Let's go to Manoj's house today and sort things out with Preeti. This will clear your doubts." Shalini readily agreed. However, Ram Niwas had something else in mind. He had already purchased a knife in preparation. Since it was raining that day, both of them wore raincoats and covered their faces with masks to avoid recognition. When Shalini questioned the need for the disguise, Ram Niwas said, "People are already gossiping about us, so it's better to go in disguise." He then called his acquaintance Chandan, an auto driver, and asked him to pick them up and drop them off near the Chola temple. Chandan, who was about to leave home after lunch, responded, "Yes, Panditji, I'll be there in 5 minutes." They then took the auto to Leeladhar colony in the Bunpur area. Upon arrival, Ram Niwas asked Chandan to wait in a nearby alley. He and Shalini then walked straight to Preeti's house. About half an hour later, they returned and got into the same auto to head back home. During the investigation, Shalini Mishra told the police, "In the morning, my husband asked me to go with him to Preeti's house. He gave me a salwar suit, gloves, dark glasses, and blue shoes and told me we had to cover ourselves to avoid recognition. I knew about my husband's affair with Preeti, and we often fought about it. I wanted to separate them, so I agreed to go, but I had no idea that he was planning to kill her. She added, "When we got there, my husband started attacking her. I had no choice but to support him. Preeti's 1.5-year-old child was present at the scene. I only took care of the child, I did nothing else." The police arrested 35-year-old Ram Niwas Mishra and his 30-year-old wife Shalini for Preeti's murder and presented them in court. They were sent to Bhopal jail. In the name of an illicit affair, Preeti lost her life, leaving her children motherless. Meanwhile, Ram Niwas, blinded by love, ended up behind bars with his wife.